right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, guys, any...
What are we talking about? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play. Come after me! I'm a man! I'm for you! Can't wait! Let's go!
What's up? Welcome everybody back to the Cheap Seats podcast. We are missing Kyle. Do not worry, Kyle fans. He will be here shortly. He's going about 150 miles an hour to get on the show as soon as possible, but that's okay because right next to me, I got Chase, aka CR Media, the World Wrestling Federation advocate. He's an entertainment. How you feeling tonight, Chase?
I'm doing fantastic, sir. How about yourself?
Phenomenal. Capital P, lowercase h. Absolutely
Nice.
phenomenal.
Absolutely.
That's okay. Welcome back from a little small hiatus. We've missed her. I've had the comments. People on Spotify are asking for her back. It's Jory from Jory Sports Stories. How you feeling tonight, Jory?
I'm feeling great. Actually. How are you?
Phenomenal. Told you. Capital. Listen, capital P, lowercase h. Phenomenal. That's the Philly way of saying it. I know it's spelled that way. Y'all should know that. But we got a lot of debate topics to get into tonight. I'm trying to share things out. I'm not on the production side of Cheap Seats normally, but that's okay. We're here. Jory's got a great question for us. We're going to start with her question. I got a very controversial one, so you might want to stick around for that one. Kyle will be here with his question, but it's a secret. He didn't tell us. He wants a natural reaction. So, Jory, without further ado, what's your question?
And my question is like with the amount of quarterbacks that we're seeing getting hurt this year, who might be the first team to trade for a quarterback? And I kind of want to hear yours first, Gene, and then Chase, and then I'll go last.
Well, the problem is nobody's going to trade for a quarterback, right? And my opinion is no one. And I'll tell you why. The Jets should have traded for a quarterback 3 weeks ago. I don't think that helps them. Like, they still win the game versus Philadelphia. They still won the game versus New York. But Zach Wilson's not the guy, right? The Jets have a world championship roster without a quarterback. Everything else about that roster screams world championship. Maybe the O-line needs to be a little upgraded, but receiving core, defense, running back room, head coach, world championship roster. Jets should have made a trade earlier in the season. But by the way, that kind of would have been real weird if they would have went all out and got them some Kirk Cousins, and then Kirk Cousins has the same injury as Aaron Rodgers, and they're both sitting right next to each other with Achilles injuries. But I don't think any team makes a trade, right? I think that the Atlanta Falcons are going to see what Taylor Heineke can offer for them, and then they're going to go to the draft. I think they're giving up completely on Desmond. Get rid of her. There's not what injury to a quarterback? Like Kyler's coming back, but they're 1-6. Like, what injury to a quarterback on a team that's contending? Like, do you think the Vikings are going to go out and overpay for somebody on a 3-4 team? I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think they're that good. Knowing that Kirk's at the end of his contract, I think they basically tank and they see what they have in their young quarterbacks, Jaron Hall or whoever they throw in. I think that's the only team you might see make a move, right? Chicago's basically tanking. I don't know. Chase, do you see anything different? Do you see any team going out there and trading for a quarterback?
No, I mean, not really, but I mean, if we're playing this game of who could go trade for a quarterback, I have a team in mind. I don't know who they would trade for, who they could go get, but mine would be the Las Vegas Raiders.
I mean, that's funny you say that. So they're playing tonight, obviously, and you're gonna see a little Las Vegas action tonight. But let's put it this way, right? If the Las Vegas Raiders went out and traded for a quarterback and didn't fire their head coach, they're more lost than I've ever seen a franchise in my life. So, like, I don't think that Las Vegas would do that. And I just don't think they would put another quarterback in the hands of Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels' record since he got caught tampering in San Francisco is now 8-29 as a head coach. He was 6-0 as a Broncos head coach to start his career. 6-0. He got caught filming San Francisco practice. They lost. And he's now 8-29 in the 37 games past that. It's kind of ridiculous. I'll be honest with you. Jory, I knew you asked this question with a team in mind, maybe a few teams in mind. Throw them out there.
I mean, my first ideal thing was literally the Vikings, because there's a good little scenario. They can come get one of my quarterbacks because they need one.
One of your three?
One of my three.
You just want to get some draft capital back. That's all.
Yes. I always have ulterior motives when I say stuff. But like what both of y'all said, at this point, the people who usually have these injured quarterbacks aren't really going anywhere. Like the Vikings, they have a few more pieces to fill. Their defense is playing better, but they still don't have Justin Jefferson. And then when you do get Justin Jefferson back, you're not going to have Kirk Cousins. So there's going to be a drop-off there. And then another way I was thinking about it, I should have worded it different, but like to acquire even a backup quarterback, because you see what's going on in Cleveland and Deshaun Watson and his shoulder cuff, or not wanting to play, or his shoulder cuff injury. And they need a viable backup because whatever's happening in Cleveland ain't working. But yeah, I was thinking Minnesota. They can come get Tannehill.
I mean,
I
think Tannehill would be the only one they would go get. I don't think that people see a real future in Malik Willis. I do want to ask you a couple Titans questions, just kind of follow up on your own question. I loved Will. First of all, I'm not a Will Levis fan. Will Levis, if you don't know, used to be a quarterback at Penn State. He couldn't beat out Sean Clifford for the job. Got the job over in Kentucky. Second round pick, first pick in the second round to the Tennessee Titans. Will Levis had an incredible game versus Atlanta this week. He looked good. I think he threw 4 touchdowns. But I will say this. I'm not a fan of him, but I'm a fan of his press conference. I'm a fan of what he said after the game about the fans booing Malik Willis when Malik got in. I felt like that was a leader, right? Like, you can go up there and hand your roses. You can be up there and receive those roses. They're talking about how well you played and how good you looked in your first NFL game. But he went up there and said, Titans fans, you got to be better. You can't be booing Malik Willis. He's part of this team. Blah, blah. Like, I love that. That's leadership qualities that I would look for in a person. Maybe in the next level, he's got the arm talent. He always has. Maybe with the right coaching staff, he could become a good quarterback. I don't know. But he wasn't a great decision maker at Penn State. That's why he didn't beat out Sean Clifford. He was a terrible decision maker in Kentucky. But people fall in love with that Jay Cutler arm strength, that Jeff George arm strength. I could throw the ball 80 yards. Chase, your thoughts on Will Levis and his comments and maybe the Titans dumping one of their quarterbacks? I think the only scenario where a quarterback gets moved is a backup scenario in Cleveland, but I think they're happy with PJ Walker. PJ Walker's
I
now
like it.
2-1 in games that he's came in for Deshaun Watson. Chase?
No, I was just gonna just harp on what you said. I mean, I love like Levis's leadership, going out there and saying that because it's not popular. You know, you look in sports and like anytime a player steps up to the podium and says, "Hey guys, hey fans, hey guys that pay hundreds, thousands of dollars a year to come watch the games," let's not treat people like that. Like usually sport fan bases don't take to that too well. And so for Levis to kind of stand up and take responsibility and take the leadership role there and kind of go into it, I dig it, man.
I dig it too. Matt Holland is talking about the Rocky pancakes that are behind you. He thinks that they're awesome.
Awesome. I'm glad he does.
And the thing about it is, there's this whole thing on Twitter because, of course, I'm the Titans fan. I know. And they we're not booing Malik. We were booing Vrabel for the 2 quarterbacks. I'm like, it doesn't dang matter. It was inappropriate. You shouldn't have booed, period.
Yeah.
Especially when he was trotting out on the field. Why would you do that?
Yeah, we
don't ever boo your offense. And if you
just to kind of touch on that and tell a story, Jory. The Chiefs had a quarterback named Matt Castle, and we also had a starting right tackle that we paid a lot of money for from the Houston Texans named Eric Winston. And Eric Winston went out on the podium after a game where Matt Castle got sacked and dropped on his head. And the fans erupted when they pulled Matt Castle out of the game and Brady Quinn came in. And Eric Winston, like I said, went to the podium and said, "Hey, like this was uncalled for. It was barbaric. Fans shouldn't do that." And like I said, the fans and the media ripped him to shreds. You didn't see Eric Winston on a football team or in the NFL very much longer after that. And so, like I said, just for a young cat like him to get up there and stand on that podium and just say, you know, like to kind of like have the gold to stand up there and do that, I admire it.
I will say this. I think it happens a lot. Like, I think it's a better happening when it happens in a win. There's my man, the prince of production of Sports Empire Network, King Kyle Edwards. But I think it works a lot better when you do it in a win, right? I think it works better when you do it in a win. Like, did they? I remember that press conference by Eric Winston. Did they do that after a loss, though? Was that after?
Oh, absolutely.
So, like,
yeah, the Chiefs went 2-14 that year.
I feel like if that happened in Philadelphia after a loss, Philadelphia would crush whoever did that. Like, who are you to tell me how to spend my money? But after a win, I think it's more powerful because the fan base is so clamoring. They're so happy that Will Levis, like, we might have a quarterback of the future. So, like, by telling them that, you kind of really give them that sense of, you know, you got to listen to me. We just won the game.
Yeah.
I think it matters. What we're talking about right now, we're talking about the Malik Willis situation where the Titans fans were booing him after the game or during the game when they were subbing out Will Levis to bring him in. Jory's question also was, will there be any quarterback that's moved at the trade deadline to make up for any of these injuries?
That's a really good question. Like, you figure Minnesota probably has to do something because they're actually kind of back into playoff mode after winning the past couple of weeks, looking much better. Yeah, so I think they have to kind of go for it. Now, who could they target?
I feel like I know who they're bringing in. You guys want me to tell you? I'll tell you.
Yeah,
that's who they're going to bring in. He's got a history with Kevin O'Connell. It's going to be Colt McCoy. They're going to bring Colt McCoy in. I can almost guarantee you it's going to be Colt McCoy.
Yeah.
They're not going to invest draft capital in a season for a rental quarterback. They're just not going to do it.
That's true. But I would just worry, what is Colt McCoy going to do for them?
More than Jaron Hall.
True.
Yeah, probably.
The same reason when Patrick Mahomes gets injured, Andy Reid goes to Chad Henne or Matt. I forgot his name. They're system quarterbacks. They know those systems, and that's why. Just like what Gene just said, the familiarity that he has with Colt McCoy, that's why they're not going to go with somebody who they think's talented and come in and have to learn the plays and learn the setup. They're going to go with the guy that they're familiar with.
It's going to be really interesting to watch I think it's the Vikings play the Falcons this week. You might see Taylor Heineke versus Jaron Hall. Who had that booked in?
Off of Ritter.
I will say this, though. If Taylor Heineke starts, I think the Falcons win that division. I said that before the season started. I think the Falcons will be a dumpster fire with Ritter. They won more games than I expected. That defense is way better than I expected them to be. Jesse Bates looks like Jesse Bates in the 2021 playoffs. Jesse Bates. He looks great in that secondary. Got to give him all the credit in the world.
Yeah.
They're way better than I expected with Desmond get rid of her.
Well, they're lucky that they have a really good running game. That's helped them most of these weeks when Ritter, they weren't asking Ritter to do much. It's only like the past couple of weeks he's made a few throws, but he was still a turnover like waiting to happen.
That's a really good point. My man Jonathan Siemi's literally just said Dobbs could be a surprise name traded because Kyler's back. So you might see, the Cardinals could really cash in on Josh Dobbs and making that move. He's played decent. He's not played great, but I bet you he can go to a situation like Cleveland and play better than PJ Walker, a situation like Minnesota and play better than Jaron Hall. I think he can go to a couple of places. I don't even think that's a bad idea to bring him into the Jets. He's inexpensive, and when Zach Wilson basically said, I don't know, when Zach Wilson is your only option at quarterback, you don't really have an option at quarterback. He's terrible.
I do like Steven throwing out Teddy Two Gloves Bridgewater.
I like that. The funny thing is, because Teddy Bridgewater is very expendable right now.
Yeah.
I think Hendon Hooker is off of the IR in week 8. So week 9 would be next week.
Yeah.
They could have Hendon Hooker as their backup quarterback, and Teddy Bridgewater is super expendable in that situation.
Absolutely.
They just drafted Hendon. That's a real interesting debate topic, though. I like it. Thank you, Jory, for bringing it up. Look, we're getting some podcast promotion. Thank you, guys. Like, I don't know. They can give me real views and downloads. If you guys have never ran a podcast, if you're out there listening, you constantly get bombarded with can I promote your podcast? Like, I think this is the time. 13.
Or my favorite is guys with metal teeth that are like, yo, bro, I can turn your sports network into tens of thousands. I got the winning code, and just those guys. And those guys can't figure their way out of a paper sack. Those are my favorite ones.
Bro,
not the bots. The bots of everybody gets bots, right? My favorite is the real life dudes that are like, oh, I took my network and my network's booming. I'm going to do the same thing for yours.
I got to
pay me $300 a month.
I won't do this. I have a bomb, though, Chase.
I know.
I have a screenshot that was sent to me from someone of him saying something real bad that I could use anytime I want. But it's in the chamber, but I won't. Let's not get into that.
Yeah.
Just trust me. When you have one in the chamber,
I like making jokes.
It's always fun to have one in the chamber. I'll put it this way. I don't think that one of his clients will appreciate what he said in a text message. But we'll get off that. I think this is time to bring it up, though. We got 13 live listeners right now. Appreciate y'all for checking in. Plus all the people that will be listening on Roku. This is the moment. I'm going to bring my question up. If you guys are okay with it, I think it's a very controversial topic, but I'm going to bring it up. I know I'm going to spark some hate from Jory, and that's okay. Jory's going to probably throw something at me, and that's all right. But I'm not a fan of Clay Travis. Let me just be clear. Never been a fan of Clay Travis. Not a fan of him at all. But what Clay Travis said he'll bet $1 million of his own money that a WNBA team would lose to the reigning league champs, the reigning league champs in WNBA, the Las Vegas Aces, would lose to a state champion high school boys basketball team. So this sparked a debate for me, right? We can have a lot of conversation about this, but here's the fun part of doing it. What level, or we can all agree, I just want to make sure we go around the horn. Any NBA team would beat any WNBA team. Are we fair to say that? Like, there's no argument there, right? Any NBA team, like the Houston Rockets at their absolute lowest would run any WNBA team by 50, like minimum. Like, are we good with saying that?
No, but I'll let you progress.
You're not good with saying that?
No.
You think a WNBA team can beat an NBA team?
I think it's possible. I don't think it's completely out of the realm that you're implying. The reason why, I'll just say this really quick. Like, we're not talking about football, like, and to not upset anybody or anything, like, but if we were talking about football, it would 1,000% be biological male, 11-on-11 biological female, and it wouldn't even be a game. It would be a slaughter. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about a game that takes skill and I'm telling you, if you watch the WNBA, there are some of those girls out there that would outwork, outperform, and outscore some dudes in the NBA. I 1,000% believe.
My guy. I watch the WNBA. I know the WNBA. I just want to listen. It's not about skill, right? There are very skilled players in the WNBA. Very skilled players. I just want to be clear when I say that. The tallest starter on the Las Vegas Aces, is 6'4". Are you telling me that a 6'11" man wouldn't be able to score at will? Listen, I'm not saying that. Look, skill versus skill. A high school team is a joke. I think WNBA, I think the Aces destroy a state champion high school team. Now, a McDonald's All-American team with like Bronny James and like all collegiate D1 players, I could see that. A state champion, like the Pennsylvania state champion basketball team, is getting destroyed by the Las Vegas Aces, in my opinion. What level of men's basketball, what level do you think, and I have an answer. I don't think it's a disrespectful answer either. I think it's a very realistic answer. What level of men's basketball do you think would beat the Las Vegas Aces? And we'll start with the Aces, right? But we're not going to go to the worst WNBA team, because I think a state champion basketball team could beat the worst WNBA team. I believe that, right? I think that the talent disparity difference between the Liberty and the Aces and the rest of the league it's there, right? We can't argue that. They were the two best teams in the league by 1 million. Mm-hmm. So my question is, what level of basketball? Like, let's just say an average D1 team, an average D2 team, an elite D2 team, an elite D3 team, a McDonald's All-American high school team. What level of basketball would you feel comfortable saying a men's team would beat the WNBA? And I thought it would be like a no-brainer. Like, Jory, I don't even think Jory might agree with you. She might. I don't think Jory would agree with you that like a WNBA team would be able to compete with an NBA team. I don't think that's realistic. Like, who's the worst team in the NBA right now? Are we going to say the Rockets? Like, who's the worst team in the NBA? Charlotte? Who's the worst team?
Charlotte might be a good.
But LaMelo would have 100. Like, who in the WNBA is even slowing him down? But all right, let's just say let's start there and we'll work our way down.
Okay.
We'll see when we get to that. We'll start with that mid-tier NBA team. What do you think the outcome is? Mid-tier. This means, I don't know, the Atlanta Hawks.
I would probably pick the Hawks, although I would love to see the Aces beat Trae Young because it would just make me laugh.
I would too, but it's not happening.
I die. This city
I'd
will
say they're getting beat by 20.
Did you say you probably picked the Hawks over the probably? I felt like I'm on a different island when I'm talking about this. Do I need to go through the starting lineups of both teams? There's got to be a size differential. I'm not saying, what's funny part is I think the Aces are more talented of players than a lot of NBA teams, like per capita. Like, you know what I mean? Like per capita.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at their starting rotation, you go, oh, the tallest one in their starting rotation is 6'4". And then you go to the Atlanta Hawks, and is Clint Capella still their starting center? I don't know. I haven't watched them this year.
I mean, Capella, Kongu, they're both, 6'10", 6'11"? Yeah.
That's my point. Like, what are we talking about? Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so bottom tier NBA team, Charlotte, Houston. See, I think if they all tried, right? If they all tried and they were giving 100%, I think the Hawks beat them by 67 to 70 points. So I'm going to go down the list. That's how I'm going to do it, right? Jory, where are you at? Mid-tier NBA team, Atlanta Hawks.
I mean, I personally, because I hate questions like this.
Why?
And I'll get into my spiel about why because it's a whole rant. I'll get into that later. But stop it. Mid-tier, I personally, because they're still professional basketball players and their skill levels are pretty much the same. I understand the size difference.
Yeah.
I understand that, but I still think it's somewhat competitive.
Okay.
I'm not saying the 60 to 70 point blowout, but it was something more like 15, 20.
Oh, okay. I just want to read some comments that are coming through. Derek Dempsey said, just like soccer, the women's USA soccer team lost to a 16. That's not the women's. That's an inaccurate statement, by the way. Yeah. It's the Australian women's soccer team lost to a group of 16 under boys, 14-1. That's an accurate statement. That did happen. That's not a made up story. I don't think it's the same thing, but let's just be clear there. Brett Gardapi said the NBA players are much bigger and physical. They both know how to ball, but most NBA shooting guards are taller than WNBA centers. It's more so size, physicality, and athleticism that separates them. I agree with that. So let's move down to Charlotte, Houston. Charlotte, Houston versus the Aces. What's your prediction on the game?
I'm taking the NBA team.
By how many? Are you trying not to get yourself in trouble by not saying?
Oh, I'm not worried about that. I'm just trying to think. I'd say maybe
it's not disrespectful.
Probably I'd probably say maybe 30, 35.
Okay. Jonathan says Hornets by 50. And Chris Charlton said other NBA teams by 30. The WNBA players would simply be outplayed. Okay. I think that the WNBA players are more skilled than some of the worst NBA teams. I think they play better team basketball. Chase, I'm going to move to you. What do you think the score or the outcome would be? Rockets, Charlotte versus the Aces.
I said 15-20 earlier. I mean, I'll stand by. We talked about a middle tier team, and I said 15-20. If we go down to a lower tier team, I still feel like 15, okay. 10 to 15-ish. I never really thought of the size comparison until just because I didn't think about this question until you brought it up. So when you brought it up, my knee-jerk reaction was well, those women, I've watched WNBA. I don't watch WNBA passionately, but I watch WNBA and I know that those girls are just as talented as the guys doing it on the counterpart. But again, like you mentioned, when you've got a 7'2", center going up against a 6'3" center, the game changes drastically then.
That's the way I feel. Maybe all right. So Jory, where are you at on this one?
Right where it was the last time, 15, 20 points, maybe okay. 10, 15 to 20.
Let's move to Division I. We'll say a top tier Division I team. Duke, Gonzaga, Kansas, Kentucky. These guys are going to the NBA, right? We're talking about Division I basketball. Alabama last year, Villanova. where do you think the Aces stack up versus a D1 college basketball team, a top D1 college basketball team? See, I think it gets much closer here. The size differential, the size differential changes by a ton. Most D1 centers are 6'8", 6'9". You'll run into a 7-footer, but he's probably trips over his own 2 feet, can't dribble. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I think this gets closer, right? I think a top tier D1 team beats them by 25 to 30 points, a top D1 team. That's where I'm at. Now, obviously, we're here. They're playing with wow, that's actually a really great question.
Yeah, it's actually
they play with a men's ball or a women's ball.
Yeah, well, Chris mentioned it earlier when he said Melo would score 100 just off mid-range jumpers, especially with the little ball.
Well, I mean, I think that we'd have to play with the NBA ball, right? We'd have to play with so like if you're playing with the men's ball, I think that's.
Look, to me, the ball don't matter because I can ball with a men or women's ball, period. So it don't matter to me.
I don't think, Jory, I don't think the ball size matters with the women. I think it does with the men. I mean, you know,
so
especially
we'll have to stick to that
because we were talking about size differential. You know, you've now got a 6'5" or a 6'6" dude holding the women's ball, and it's like
tiny.
So, yeah.
So what? All right, a top tier D1 team, Jory, help me out here.
I mean, I think, and maybe I sound outlandish to y'all. I think they could beat them.
That's. Listen,
That is my personal opinion.
Jory, let me just be clear with you. I don't think that's outlandish to say a college basketball team versus the Aces. I think the Aces are going to have better team chemistry. I think they're going to pass the ball better. I think they're going to be smarter, like more basketball intelligence than a college kid. I don't think that's insane to say that. I just think the athleticism still at that point is too much. We're talking about future NBA players. Like, you got to remember Karl Anthony Towns as a college athlete. Like, I just don't know how you stop him, right? So that's okay. That's fine. We're there. Let's say you have them winning a close game. Say it's close.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's a close game.
Kyle, where do you have a D1 team? You said, what would you say?
Well, I would have them. Look, I think the Aces would beat some. Like you said top tier, so we're talking about Duke.
We're talking about Duke, Nova, and North Carolina. We're talking about them. Because I'm going to go to mid tier in a minute.
Okay, so with the top tier, I think it's very competitive. I would probably I might lean kind of with Jory Aces by like a 5 to 10 type margin. Very tight game late in the game, but because I've seen some of these top tier schools where it's like they have like 1 or 2 really skilled players, and then a couple of guys are kind of specialists with big men that, like you said, don't really do much. And I think the Aces would probably hang with teams like that.
Okay. I think D1 teams, the athleticism level is still too high. Top D1 teams. Mm-hmm. We'll go to a mid D1 team. Let's go like the Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Providence, Xavier, mid D1 team. You already have the Aces winning. You both have the Aces winning. Am I getting chased to go towards the Aces when I get to the mid-tier D1 team? Yeah. So we have 3 against 1 here. So I'm going to tell you, then we might as well stop going on. I think a mid-tier D1 team still beats the Aces. I think it goes to a top-tier D2 team. I think that's where the skill gap is, where it's got to be at, right? Like, I think a D2 team, like teams that play Friday night, right? Like, I'm talking about like Elon. I'm talking about like, the New Jersey teams. I don't know why I'm forgetting the names of them. They play out in New York, New Jersey. I think a top-tier D2 team versus a WNBA team is exactly the difference. I still think the D2 team would be more athletic. I just think the intelligence level, the skill level of the WNBA team is too much at that point. I think that they win versus a mid-tier D2 or top-tier D2 team. That's where I kind of crossed the limit, right? I just think it's interesting that this guy thinks a state champion high school basketball team, and he's so confident that he put $1 million of his own money on it. I think those kids are still wet behind the ears, and I think that players like Asia Wilson or Kelsey Plum are going to absolutely dominate.
Yeah, they would work those high school kids, please. Come
I
on.
believe that. Now I will say this, right? And I mean this when I say it, right? I think that like in a skills competition or a 3-point contest, I think the WNBA players would hold their own, if not beat a lot of NBA players. Like outside of Steph Curry, I don't think anybody beats Sabrina Ionescu in a 3-point contest in the NBA. I think it's Steph
at
Curry.
this point, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably Curry, maybe Clay on a good day.
Clay on a good day.
Yeah.
Sabrina, I feel like she's got the form when she's dead open that she just doesn't miss. I don't know.
I think
Chase,
I think the biggest thing, like for that question, or for, you know, for somebody like him to put that out there, I think he kind of got like some of the reactions like he wanted, like especially like my reaction. I think a little bit of Jory's reaction as well is I don't really think he's talking about, like, obviously the $1 million says my guys are good, but hey, my high school team could beat a WNBA team. I just felt, at least to me, like my eyes, and that's why like when I came in, I didn't even think about the athleticism. I went immediately like gung-ho for like, hey, that doesn't sound right, because I feel like that's what he was going for. Like, hey, my 18-year or my 17, 18-year-old men's team in high school could beat those women in the WNBA.
That's exactly the angle he was going for. And you know his
I feel like that I feel like that is to a certain extent. And, you know, but I mean, to Gene's point, like when Gene brought it up, the athleticism that you don't think about when you've got like the top 30% of the centers and shooting guards in the NBA are anywhere between 6 foot and 7'1", and your tallest player on the best team in the WNBA is 6'4". Like that's a huge, you know, and then of course the size of the ball, because no matter if she's 6'4", her hands are nowhere near as big as, you know, somebody who's 6'8", 7 foot. So
chat, I need the chat. Everybody that's in the chat. Got 16 live listeners right now. Every single one of you. I need 16 answers. I want you to let me know what level of basketball do you think the average D1 team, the average D2 team, the average D3 team, the average high school team, whatever, what level do you think would be too much of a match for a WNBA team? It's a debate here on the Cheap Seats. This is Barbershop Sports Talk. We're going to get into this stuff each week. I think that the Aces are incredible, but like, I don't want to like go too far with this, right? Like my sidebar question is, we said that about the Aces. Now I'm going to ask you guys a question, and I just want to like hear your opinion on this. Phoenix Mercury, Seattle Storm, Indiana Fever. What level of team do you think they would beat? Because like, I'm just looking at their roster, right? Like I just pulled up the Indiana Fever roster. Tallest person on Indiana Fever is Aaliyah Boston. She's 6'5", and Aaliyah Boston's going to hold her own. I watched Aaliyah Boston in South Carolina. Girl can play basketball. She's strong. So what level of basketball team do you think the Indiana Fever beat too? Like, I would love to hear both. John Suggs says, I think a WNBA team could hold their own against D2. I agree with that. I think that's exactly they could beat some D1 teams. Anything can happen. Yeah. So he thinks it'd be a major upset. John, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think that they can go out and beat like a Pepperdine on any given night. I think that could happen 100%. And they're a D1 team. Mm-hmm. D2 simply for speed and agility, Derek Dempsey said. So a lot of people around that bottom tier, mid-tier D1 to top tier D2. That's where they're at.
Yeah, that seems fair.
Seems fair to me too. Let's see it in the chat more and more. Jonathan Sammy says D1. So I like that. He's picking the D1 team. That's what that was. Okay. I like that though. I like the debate. I just think that this guy got the attention he wanted. And
Yes.
I think a lot of people mean it in a way where it's a fun debate. Like we're talking about it as a fun debate. We're giving credit where credit is due for the great WNBA teams. And we're actually giving, like a reasonable expectation. This idiot popping off, and it almost comes off as sexist. It comes off. Okay, Jory, this is your rant time because we're about to do a question. I'm gonna just
because it absolutely is, and he has an absolute habit of saying things on Twitter or whatever you want to call it, just to get attention from his crowd. And what is his crowd? Incels, if you ask me.
Yo.
I mean,
Jory,
come on.
tell him what time it is. Point at the clock. It's Jory time.
He is known for saying controversial stuff in certain undertones, whether it's sexist undertones, racial undertones, whatever type of ignorant undertones you could put out there. He's known for saying stuff like that. Move. So that type of crowd is his crowd, and he said it just to get their attention so they could just trash and demean the WNBA and women in general. That's why I hate questions like that.
Okay, that's fair. And like I'm reading a lot of comments. There's like a Reddit thread on this. There actually was a thread 2019 where they asked this question, and I read a lot of comments. A lot of comments were talking about like statistical measurables, and I think that when you're talking about measurables, like yeah, man, a 17-year-old like about to be a collegiate athlete, high school stud like a Bronny James, yeah, he's going to be more athletic than any WNBA player, athleticism-wise. But the game's not just won on athleticism. If that was the case, then Alabama would have won the national championship last year.
Exactly.
Agreed.
It's one with skill. It's one with shooting. Like, did you guys watch Arkansas play basketball last year? They couldn't shoot a lick. They would just drive the lane and just force up layups. I feel like that the athleticism matters on the defensive end, but there's screening roles, there's ways to scheme players open, and there's a lot of skill that goes into it. I'm going top tier D2. That's where I'm at. All right, let's move on to the next question. Kyle, you had a question that you wouldn't tell us. It was a quote that you heard on the radio about bandwagon fans, aka Freddie Henderson's.
Yes. When I heard the quote, Freddie was somebody I did think about. So
bro, I don't know if y'all noticed, and I'm probably going to use this Wednesday night. Like I have a screenshot the whole 9 yards. I might use this as my "you got to be kidding me." I don't know if you'll follow. I know y'all, most of y'all aren't in the Sports Empire Network chat. That shit was hilarious. Freddie celebrated a Giants win. And then immediately they miss a field goal, jump off sides, and let Zach Wilson go 50 yards in 28 seconds to tie the game. I was in tears. Like, I don't know if you knew like how elated I was when that happened, because Freddie has been a ghost Giants fan for what, 3 weeks now?
It had been a while since he said.
I thought he denounced them.
He denounced them. He was going to become a 49ers fan. They lost 3 straight. He said that. Like, I can't, like, it's so funny to me. He's like, I'm going to be a 49ers fan. They deleted it, took it back. He's like, I'm going to be a Giants fan. But he didn't talk about them for weeks. And they won a game last week, and they almost beat Buffalo with Tyrod.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you right now, Tyrod plays that whole game yesterday. The Giants win that game. There's no way the Jets come back and win that game. Tyrod doesn't get hurt. They had -8 passing yards. Like, that was terrible. But see, why are you gonna call me DJ Khaled, Matt? I'm not gonna read your whole comment because it's a little disrespect.
Matt has been putting nicknames for all of us the whole time.
I'm all right with DJ Khaled though. We the best too. I can do it.
Another one.
Get the head. All right, so Kyle, read your question for the Freddie Henderson of the world.
So I was listening to NBA radio, and they had Amin El Hassan on, And he was basically talking about how as a kid he grew up as a Knicks fan and that he's no longer a Knicks fan. And he's talking about how like the new generation, because of social media, it makes no sense for them to be diehard fans of losing teams because the whole point of being a fan is success. So he thinks that if you're growing up like in Chicago, you wouldn't be a Bulls fan now. You'd probably be a Warriors fan because of what the Warriors just recently did. So when I heard that, I was like, so now is it now acceptable or more acceptable to be a bandwagon fan? Because apparently younger fans just can't take losing or rebuilds or anything like that. And I guess this kind of speaks to a generational thing. Because for me, I grew up in Boston, automatically became fans of Boston teams, good, bad, whatever. It gave me reasons to be upset with them. I could cheer for them when they win. You just kind of go through that. But now it's like, look at LeBron fans. They were LeBron fans when he was with the Heat, but they weren't Heat fans. Then he went to Cleveland. They were Cavs fans until LeBron left. Now they're Laker fans. And I think fans like that have definitely blurred the line on what it takes to be a fan. So the question is kind of like, is bandwagon fandom now the new norm because of social media?
What order do you want this to go in? Because I'm holding back right now.
I mean, we can start.
We can start with me and go around, and then end with Gene. I guess we want, yeah.
That's fine. I'm gonna go.
I'm gonna give a real vanilla, like cookie cutter answer to it. I don't really care. That doesn't bother me. You know, if some asshat like jumped at me and was like, hey, you know, question my fandom or whatever, then like, yeah, like, bro, you're a bandwagon fan. But I mean, just for somebody to be like, oh, I like this because I like it, and I wanna, you know, like me, I like LeBron. I'm not a fan of the Cavaliers. I don't still follow the Cavaliers. My team is Oklahoma City Thunder, but I also like when you're living in the climate that we're in right now of like, you're watching one of the greatest players ever. Like, yeah, I'm going to be a LeBron fan. And no, I'm not going to stick and watch the Cleveland Cavaliers after LeBron leaves. And I'm not going to do the same thing with the Lakers after he leaves. I like watching LeBron win. I don't care if the Lakers win. I guess that's how you would call that.
So I guess you're one of those people.
Well, technically, according to Amin,
I do the same thing with football. Like when Tom won, I was happy for Tom. Like, except for when he beat the Chiefs. But I mean, like, you know, it's yeah.
But the whole thing is like, according to Amin, so I'm a Patriots fan. I should have been a Patriots fan for the 20 years that they dominated. And now that they're struggling, I should no longer want to be a Patriots fan and pick a new team that's now successful.
No. If you're talking about like that, like turning your back on your team, like that's different.
Well, that's kind of the approach he was coming at it from.
Yeah. No, that's ridiculous. My friends would get beat up for that.
Dude, I have a whole gist of this. By the way, I need to read a comment out, guys. I was dying laughing. So Danny Dempsey is a diehard Miami Dolphins fan. I've known him since we were in diapers, right? Like we've known each other for 37 years. Been a Dolphins fan. He was a Dan Marino fan when he grew up. Loved Dan the Man, had all the jerseys, was a Dolphins fan from the moment this kid was born. Diehard. They have sucked. So he goes, I seen my team suck for 32 years. His brother Derek, who's an Eagles fan, pause. I was dying. Sorry, it was the comment of the night. I get it. I understand the double entendre with it, but it was funny. Derek says you can be a fan of the sport, but can't go away from your team. Jory, let me hear it. By the way, I don't know this, Jory. I don't know your stories on fandom. And I'll give you an example, right? You're a Bama fan, you're a Titans fan. And then for basketball, you're a Lakers fan?
Yes.
So, like, you kind of are a front runner.
Huh?
I mean, we'll find out. Like, you're a Jordan, right? like a Jordan. I don't mean to compare you to Jordan. But like Jordan is like a Duke basketball fan, an Alabama football fan, a New York Yankees fan, a Lakers fan. Like that's like go
And
winners.
then Baltimore Ravens fan.
Like go winners. That's what that is, right? But you being a Titans fan, I feel like football fandom is just different, right? Like you see this happen in the NBA all the time. People follow players and not teams.
Yeah.
Football fandom is normally like there's so much parity in the NFL. Unless you're a Patriots or a Cowboys fan, I kind of believe that you're a loyal fan, right? Now, I'm not saying there aren't loyal Patriots fans and aren't loyal Cowboys fans, but there's a lot of fake Patriots and Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan, what's your thoughts on this? I want to hear it because you're also part of this generation that they're speaking of. You're the youngest on the show. Tell us.
Like my thing is like with my story, like with my teams, I grew up an Alabama fan. Quite literally. Like my whole dad's side of the family, they're all from down by Mobile. So that's where that came from.
Okay.
And I ended up going to the University of Alabama for a semester. So that's kind of warranted. As far as like my Laker fandom.
You're good there.
My Laker fandom, my mom was a Laker girl. I grew up watching Laker basketball.
Okay.
The only thing that I would have to kind of be like people would look at me a little shaky about would probably be my football team. One, I'm in Georgia and I'm a Titans fan. I didn't grow up that way though. No. I grew up literally a Falcons fan, being from Georgia, and my family who watched football was Falcons fan. And then once I made decisions of my own and I literally liked what the Titans had going on, I saw a little vision in like 2013, 2014, I switched.
I ain't gonna lie to you.
It really took Derrick Henry getting drafted to Tennessee to get me to switch.
No, I feel you though, but I think that the Falcons are a better franchise. So I wouldn't call you a front runner for picking the worst of the two franchises.
But I've caught some flack for that down here.
I don't think that's flag. If you told me you were a Cowboys fan because I like the star, or like a Patriots fan because all they do is win, hate us because they ain't us, that would be annoying, right? But you being a Titans fan and not perennial Super Bowl champions, like I'm okay with that.
And I hate the Cowboys because they get too much attention hogs. But as far as like the question goes, it's like, if you've been through it with your team and then they start winning and then they suck and then you turn your back to go find somebody else in the middle of a winning streak, i.e. somebody we all know, we all dropped a name. You're just in it to win it. You're not in it to feel the genuine emotions. My Titans have made me have a whole meltdown one day. And I'm like, you know what? I just had to turn the TV off.
We've all been there, Jordan.
We've all been there.
Yep.
So it's like, if you're just in it to win it, you're not a real fan. You just like to watch. You're a casual. You're a fraud if you're just going to be in it to win it and not just sit there and feel those emotions, the highs and the lows. Because everything is not going to be sunshine and rainbows when it comes to football land and fandom in general. I don't know what Laker game it was, but they made me so mad I threw my phone across the room. So there's that.
It wasn't a Laker game. Actually, Jory, it was against the Titans. It was when we signed Darrelle Revis for a little bit. And I don't know if you remember this or not, but Mariota caught his own interception.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
His own tip pass, and scored a touchdown. I stomped on my phone that game. I left. I was cursing. I was so mad at that game.
Oh, I'll tell you the most mad I've ever been in a football game. And y'all don't know this. Everybody here is probably too young. Jay, how old are you?
I'm 35.
Okay, so you might remember this. Or everybody else too young. Kyle, how old are you?
I'm 39.
Oh, you're older than me. I didn't even realize this.
What?
Remember.
No, you're not.
Baby.
Kyle, you are not 39, bro.
We had this
I
conversation.
don't believe you.
So you both might remember this.
Mm-hmm.
the worst game to be an Eagles fan of all time. Philadelphia Eagles, last game at the Vet. They're playing in the NFC Championship game versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers never won a game below 40 degrees. Never. Never won a game below 40 degrees. They were playing in Philly, 27 degrees. Oh, we're going to beat them. We beat them earlier in the season. We beat them last year in the playoffs. We're going to beat them. Last game at the Vet, we can't lose the last game at the Vet. And then the opening kickoff, Brian Mitchell takes the ball 75 yards down to the Buccaneers 25. And the first play of the offensive game, Deuce Staley goes 25 yards, 7-0 Birds. The celebration's on. We're going to the Super Bowl. We're going to beat the Raiders because the Raiders stink. 7-3, 3rd and 7 from the own 11-yard line for the Philadelphia Eagles. Brad Johnson throws a drag pattern pass. Or was it Trent Dilfer? Might have been Dilfer. No, it was Brad Johnson. Throws a drag pattern pass to Joe Juravicius, who runs all the way down the sideline, ran past 2 Eagles, got all the way down to the 3-yard line. Ended up scoring a touchdown. They went up 10-7. Then they go up. They're winning the game. The Eagles are driving down. There's like 5 minutes left in the game. They're having an opportunity to get back into the game. They're at the 3-yard line, and then Donovan McNabb throws the biggest cookie to Rondé Barber. I took a beer can and threw it so hard at my door, I almost cut my finger off. That's how angry I was. Dead. Kyle, I know your thoughts. Can I go? Am I allowed to go?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I know your thoughts on this. My thoughts are Kendrick Lamar. That's my thoughts. Loyalty and loyalty is inside my DNA. I got loyalty. Listen, you can't switch sides. I think if you're living in the Philadelphia area and you've never been to Dallas and you're a Cowboys fan, I blame your parents. It's bad parenting. It is. It's bad parenting. You're not allowed to be a freaking Cowboys fan living in Philadelphia. You can't switch up on your teams. Look, I'll tell you right now, ladies, if you're listening to the show, if you know a man that is switched up on his football team, he's going to cheat on you.
I second that completely.
Look, the moment times get tough, this man's running out the door. Can't do that. Listen, I think that what made February of 2018 so special for me was watching them, was suffering all those times, watching them lose. So when they won, it was like a moment with me and my dad. My dad's buried in the Eagles urn. Y'all seen it a couple weeks ago. We were at Frankfurt Common together. I was in tears watching them win the Super Bowl. That's how emotionally invested I was. And these losers are going, the Giants suck. I'm going to be a Rams fan this year. And they win the Super Bowl, and they're celebrating Super Bowls like it's theirs.
Mm-hmm.
Shit ain't yours. Nah. Loyalty is more important than anything. I'm going to tell you something right now. You look for qualities in a human being. Qualities in a human being. How many qualities do you go through when you're looking for a person before you get to loyalty? One,
maybe. If that.
Loyalty is so important. And I think being loyal to your team is being loyal to your family, is being loyal to anything. Look, if there's any team that made me want to jump off and not be loyal to them, it's the 76ers, man. That team has been an absolute dumpster fire for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Allen Iverson took them to the NBA Finals with Tyrone Hill, George Lynch. Like, are you kidding? Matt Geiger, Eric Snow. And then they became like a middle-of-the-road team that would never win two playoff series. And then they became a terrible team because they tanked. I got to watch 5 seasons of them attempting to lose basketball games. I stayed loyal. And then they finally get superstars, and they destroy everything about it. Oh, let's draft Markel Fultz instead of Jason Tatum. Let's draft Nerlens Noel, Michael Carter Williams. Trade him. Get Drew Holiday. Trade him. Jahlil Okafor. Are you kidding me?
That's the Royals for me.
It's crazy. But I'm still loyal. I still watch him play. I'm still defensive of him.
I remember screaming at the TV at Swaggy P because he was a Laker. He made me so ding-dango mad.
That's funny that you say that because our last question. Kyle, do you want to add anything to this? I know.
No,
stand,
yeah,
right?
the only thing I was going to say is like, you know, when I was growing up in Boston, it was like if I saw a Yankee hat, I'd be like, how could you be a Yankee fan just walking around Boston like everything's cool? But, you know, most people think, oh, if I'm a Patriots fan, I've only been a Patriots fan since Tom Brady. It's like, no, I remember the Bledsoe years. I remember, you know, Pete Carroll. I remember Steve Grogan, like watching some of that stuff with the neck roll and those terrible years. You know, the Celtics, I came in like after Bird and all that dominance. I went through all the years of D. Brown, Sherman Douglas, Kevin Gamble, like random names like that. A la Abdel Nabi. Like, come on now. So when they won it in, was that 08, dumped the Gator on Doc, great moment for me. When the Patriots beat the greatest show on turf, I almost lost my mind because I didn't know if I would ever see the Patriots win a Super Bowl. Much less the Red Sox went through 86 years of being a laughingstock, finally getting it done. Great moments. It's like those moments when they finally break through is why you're a fan. To sit there and just jump around from team to team, it's like, how fun is that to always, you know, just look at a roster and be like, oh, they're pretty stacked. I think I'll be a fan of theirs from now. It's like, that's like the 2K version of being a fan. And I'm not down for that.
I look at some players, like, you know, like I said, like LeBron. Like I look at LeBron and I'm like, I like watching him play, or you know, whatever. I wouldn't consider myself like.
Yeah, but do you have an NBA team?
You have a team. It's not like, oh, Brown's on a Laker, so I'm a Laker fan. I don't even respect Laker fans like that. I'm like, what? Were you not there
the only teams we have is the Royals and the Chiefs. I adopted.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I adopted the Oklahoma City Thunder as my team.
I have one of my best friends in the entire world. He is a Phillies fan, diehard Phillies fan, Cowboys fan, Flyers fan. Not really diehard Flyers fan, but he's a Flyers fan, and then a LeBron fan. Whatever team LeBron's on, that's it. And he's such a loyal, awesome human being. Like he's great, right? Like hopefully Nico and Nick are listening. Love you. I still think that the Cowboys thing is not really a thing, but we want you to become a Sixers fan. We'll allow that door to be open. When LeBron retires, you can come on over. But I do want to read this comment off. It's going to piss Jory off. I'm sorry in advance, Jory. Derek Dempsey says, my second favorite team in the NFL is the Titans because they keep giving us great players.
Listen here. Look,
I'm dead.
I'm tired of y'all using us as a damn talent farm. Grow your own goddamn talent.
Get your own players.
Get your own goddamn players.
I just really quick, and we can move on. I am still absolutely flabbergasted. When we were talking about, you know, Kyle was talking about the greatest show on turf. I still like knee-jerk reaction was gonna be like, Kyle, you were probably a baby on the greatest show on turf. What are you talking about?
Older than us.
I was there watching it, just taking it all in.
I can't get over it.
Oh man, I'm gonna tell you something right now. You're doing well.
Yeah,
you're doing well.
I appreciate
it.
That.
28.
Thank you.
All right, so you guys inspired me for this last question. We're kind of like talking to Chase. Chase got some weird question we're not using. I love you, Chase. I'm just messing with you. But
that's fun.
This is a fun debate question. I think it's really, really good conversation. I don't care if you give me two, but give me a player that you loved and give me a player that you absolutely hated. Only one rule. Only one rule. Player has to be retired. Can't be a current player. Can't give me a player that you love now. It's got to be a player that you absolutely loved and why you loved them. And hopefully you have a player that's not like Tom Brady. Like I want a player that's not the best player on the team, right? And a player you absolutely hated. Absolutely hated. I'll start because I give you guys a time. I just threw it on you. But a player you absolutely love, player absolutely hated. There's not a player in basketball. I don't know why I hated him so much. I know why I hated him, but I don't know why I hated him so much. I could not stand Antoine Walker. I hated Antoine Walker.
Half the Celtics fans couldn't stand him. So
I could not stand that man. I don't like everything about him just annoyed me. He would talk smack. He wouldn't shoot good threes, but yet he would shoot them all the time. He was lazy defensively. He ran his mouth about Philly. He beat that 2002 76ers team. Game 5 at the Garden. I'll never forget that game. They couldn't miss a three-pointer.
Mhm.
That was ridiculous. They were unbelievable that game. But I hated Antoine Walker. Player I absolutely loved. I got a few. A lot of these names people don't even recognize, right? Shane Victorino, the flying Hawaiian, loved him.
Yeah.
Loved him. He was the player in that 08 team, man. He was the glue guy. He did everything, right? Got on base, hit home runs, loved him, right? Here's another one, football. A lot of people don't know this. Y'all know my email address? My email address is gino8121@gmail.com. Now, 81 was Terrell Owens. I made that email address in 2004. But no one knows who 21 is. And the guess I always get is, is that Eric Allen? Nope. My favorite player that was underrated on the Philadelphia Eagles was Bobby Taylor. I loved me some Bobby Taylor. And the reason I love Bobby Taylor so much is I hated Michael Irvin. And for years, Michael Irvin would destroy the Philadelphia Eagles. He would just go off. His greatest games ever versus the Eagles. And then Bobby Taylor came in here, and Bobby Taylor shut him down. He was known as the Michael Irvin stopper. He had the length, he had the size, the athleticism to run with him, and Bobby Taylor just manned him up. I loved me some Bobby Taylor. So they're my 2, 3. Who wants to go next? I'll keep it open because I don't know if y'all ready.
I know one player I did love growing up.
No one player you hate, Swaggy P.
Wait, huh?
I said I know one player you hate, Swaggy P.
Oh, yeah. The one player I did love growing up had to be Tony Gonzalez.
Okay.
1, I was a Falcons fan at the time. 2, that me and him literally share the same birthday. That's literally the biggest reason, too. He was literally my favorite. Just for that.
He's not a Falcons player, Jory.
I know the Chiefs claim him, but I remember him as a Falcon.
Listen, Jory, I know you're young and we love you, but he is a Kansas City Chief. He's not claiming by Kansas City. I just want to be clear. He played a couple years for the Falcons. He was decent for the Falcons.
And those are the years I remember. He was one of my favorite players then. And then when I found out, like when I was younger, that me and him had the same birthday, he was really my favorite player.
I love that.
As far as a player that I hated, Swaggy P was one of them. I'm really trying, because I have a list, because a few of them rubbed me the wrong way.
I'll never forget that post-game press conference when they won, and the one they showed Kobe on Jay Leno, I think it was, when they showed Kobe, the Lakers celebrating after they lost 7 straight, and they were the way they were celebrating winning a regular season game, and they showed the video to Kobe, and Kobe was just furious.
Yes.
It was incredible.
He was all of us. That was the move then. I was like, why are you celebrating?
My man Tom Gallo in the chat said, loved Reggie White, Minister of Defense. Hated Troy Aikman. He's an Eagles fan.
I did grow up hating Drew Brees.
Why?
That's an interesting
I was a Falcons fan.
Oh, okay, that's fair. I get it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I hated anything with a Saint. Or Ain't, is like we like to call him.
Like
the
such
Aints.
a great person. Like Drew Brees has like all these wholesome moments with like his kids on the field.
They
breaking
make me
records.
sick.
Like, he seems like the most wholesome person ever. George's
They
like, I
make me
hate him.
sick. They make my stomach boil. I could not stand Drew Brees.
Steve Smith's the guy. John Suggs said I hated Steve Smith because of his mouth. He's definitely a guy you either love or hate.
Oh yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I love him. I love that attitude, but that's just me. Go ahead, Chase.
Players I hate. Well, there's some that I really did hate that I don't hate anymore. Tony Romo was one of them. I don't hate Tony Romo anymore. But Peyton Manning, I can't stand him. I don't like his forehead. I don't like the way he talks. I don't like the way he analyzes football.
You like the sheriff?
No. If he talks about a route, I look at my wife and I go, he's a fucking idiot. My bad. He's an idiot and he has no idea what he's talking about. But if somebody else says the same stuff, I'll be like, that dude's a genius. Listen to him. Peyton Manning, all the way.
Oh,
He
I
played
know.
for the Colts that beat us all the time. And then he goes and plays for Denver and then beats us at Denver. I just can't stand him. I hate him. Can't stand him. Obviously, there's a bunch of Chiefs players that, like underrated Chiefs players that I'll always love. Jamal Charles,
Okay.
Tom Bahali, Derek Johnson, Justin Houston.
That's what I wanted. I wanted the Tom Bahali.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted.
Brandon Flowers, Eric Berry. I'm getting almost tears in my eyes and goosebumps. Eric Berry goes out with Hodgkin's lymphoma, and then his homecoming game when he came back, just absolutely amazing. Yeah. But Peyton Manning is the guy that I just there's always been like certain Denver Chargers, and even like I lived in Dallas for 5 years, and I'll say this: it's not that I hate the Dallas Cowboys. I hate Dallas Cowboy fans. When I moved down to Dallas, I didn't dislike Dallas. I didn't like Dallas. I mean, I didn't, like I was a big Terrell Owens fan. And they had just broke up with that. But I mean, like they had talented players. But man, as soon as like the people at Dallas found out I was a Chiefs fan, it was like open season. And I'm like, yo, like, don't you got some Eagles fans or some Giants fans to harass? Like, what you got to do with me? And it was as a sports fan, it was the most miserable 4 years of my life living down there because the Chiefs could lose to the Raiders, and here comes Cowboys fans. How about them Cowboys? We them boys.
That's fine. All you have to do is wait for playoff time when they failed, just to go rub it in their face and make them mad.
Yeah, be like, I'm gonna call my friend Kyle over here at Sports Empire Network. I bet he's got a VHS copy of the last time y'all won a Super Bowl.
Oh, my favorite ever is did you ever see the Big Cat interview with Aaron Rodgers?
Yes.
And
Big Cat tells him
when he's like, well, I got a Super Bowl ring. He goes, yeah, well, my Super Bowl was watching you lose in the playoffs. And I got a lot more Super Bowls than you do. I was dying. I was dead.
Yeah.
As a Bears fan, we don't expect the Super Bowl. So my Super Bowl was you losing in the playoffs. And I have a ton of them. I'm like, I was dead.
Yeah, that whole interview with him and Big Cat was awesome.
So funny.
I know there's got to be more.
There's definitely more. He's 75.
Ryan Fitzpatrick is another one. I've never really liked Ryan Fitzpatrick.
You dislike some weird people, man. Yeah. I thought you were going to tell me Ryan Fitzpatrick's another one you really like.
No.
Talking about a Harvard kid that was 6th rounder. Like, what do you hate about him?
Something about his face makes me want to punch him right in the stuck hole.
Yo, I'm dying.
I know I got
one. This is funny because I actually did this like on a live stream, but those are like active players. Now it's like I gotta think of retired. Well, I mean, one player I really don't like, Dwight Howard. Was never a Dwight Howard guy. I always thought he was lazy. He never really cared about getting better. Couldn't stand him. On the other side, always loved Vince Carter, especially when he, like missed the playoff game to go over, graduate and all that kind of stuff. Maybe you like him a lot because I was like, look, he put something aside to do something that was more meaningful. Yes, it was a playoff game. A lot of people were like, "Oh, you're crazy." Well, I think he actually showed up like late or something, but Vince Carter was a guy I always liked. In terms of my local teams, loved Troy Brown. He was like, whatever you needed him to do, he'd willing to do it. You never heard him complain, anything like that. So I was always a fan of his. I mean, for Celtics, you're looking at. I was always a Paul Pierce guy, but I mean, he's like a star. I'm trying to think of a smaller. Dana Barros, kind of a random name. I always like Dana Barros.
Oh, you can't bring that name up.
For real? Well, I guess Philly fans.
I love Dana Barros. He was our best player. Our best player when we were terrible. And he went to the Celtics and was like their sixth man. I was so mad that our best player signed with the Celtics to go be their sixth man. I was so mad. I'm like, we're that bad? Our best player. They just picked him up and like, yeah, he's a bench guy. Rotational. I'm so mad.
I also liked him because he was from the Boston area and he was always like around in the community and stuff like that. I mean, unfortunately, he died too young, but I was a big Reggie Lewis fan. I thought he was going to be one of the greatest basketball players. He had the skill, and then unfortunately, his life came to an end too early. A lot of the players I hate are like active. Harden, but that's obvious. Like James Harden, everybody hates James Harden.
Yeah,
I got
you know
one.
what's funny? You know a player. I'll go right to. You know a player that I like that most people hate, and I like him because he's so imperfect and he's such an asshole that like so many people dislike him because he's an asshole. But like I love him. I listen to his podcast. No Chill Gil. I was such an Agent Zero fan. Gilbert Arenas. I loved watching him play. But he was such an asshole. Like when he did Washington, where he got in a fight and someone owed him money and he pulled a gun out on him, like that's just No Chill Gil. Like he was just an idiot. But I loved him. I loved me some No Chill Gil. Yeah, Jory.
And as a Titans fan, because this man is retired, I can go relive my trauma. And I felt bad for genuinely how the coach treated him. Andrew Luck. I could not stand Andrew Luck in that happy-go-lucky beard. Because he always carved up my team. He would never have an off game versus my team.
I could never.
Never.
He was such a wholesome. You guys hate wholesome ass people.
We blew a 28-point lead to him and the Colts one time.
Joe, Jory hates like the most like wholesome people ever. Yo, Jory likes her a bad boy. I'm tell you right now, if you're in the Georgia area, Jory's looking to date a bad boy because she hates anybody. Like Drew Brees, Andrew Luck, I hate those people. Drew Brees like raised like $50 million for New Orleans with Katrina. Yeah. She's like, I hate him. Terrible.
And Saints fans, the whole Georgia, the Falcons Saints fans dynamic is really interesting because it's like they're everywhere down here.
That's fair.
Little flags. I'm like, I don't know how there's so much peace knowing that there's Falcons fans in one house and a Saints fan in another. They're just intertwined. And it's a lot of it is due to Hurricane Katrina. Let's be real. That's a lot.
I feel that. They moved from New Orleans to
but and I could not stand it. I'm like,
I'm gonna read some of the comments out. Derek Dempsey said, sadly, my favorite player ever is not an Eagle. My favorite player ever is Barry Sanders, and I hated Tony Romo. Saigon said, I never liked Rivers or Tannehill. Still don't know why.
I had Rivers, I can see that.
I can get it behind.
I had a love-hate because I love Phillip. I loved his swagger. I loved how he talked smack. But obviously he played for the Chargers and we had to play him all the time. So when he finally left the Chargers, I rooted for Phillip hardcore. Tannehill was one because Tannehill I thought was gonna be a lot better coming out of college, and he disappointed me. So I'm always like, I hate Tannehill.
What day shocked you more? The day you found out, see, you guys, Bob Saget, man. The day you first seen Bob Saget do stand-up after watching Full House, that day shocked me. But the day that I found out that Phillip Rivers didn't curse, was a day I was so shocked. I was so floored. This man did not
Right.
curse. I remember the argument him and Jake
talks.
Cutler had.
Yeah.
He was
He talks so much smack for
And
somebody
not
who
one
doesn't
curse
curse.
word. I'm
No.
like,
wild, bro. I don't
you
know.
got 11 kids and you don't cuss? Like, come on. That's patience of a God right there. Patience.
I don't know what surprised me more, that or Bob Saget. The first time I seen Bob Saget do stand up, I almost lost my mind. Like I don't know if you understand that. Like Full House was Danny Tanner was the most wholesome human being on the planet. Oh, DJ, Stephanie, and then I watched this man do stand up and he started the joke with like a real raunchy effed up joke. I'm like, what is oh, that's Danny Tanner. He can't be a comedian. And he just I'm like, oh my God.
I think comparison for probably the younger crowd. Remember when Wayne Brady did the Chappelle Show skit? And people were like, "Who's this dude?"
You know. I mean, that's basically our show tonight. Any final thoughts, comments? Anybody want to add anything? I had such a blast tonight. I love this show. Anytime I get a chance to do it. By the way, once again, we'll have Brett filling in for me next week, but I'll be at the 76ers game. So I'm on my Mondays are so tough. I love to do this show as much as I can, but I promise that the three here and Brett will hold it down for me next week when I'm at the 76ers game. They got me as a birthday present. They're playing the Indiana Pacers, I think. Okay. They might lose that game. Indiana is very good. But I'm going to Sixers game next Monday. But any final comments, gentlemen and lady?
No, I don't think so.
Great show.
Can't think of anything.
Well, I really appreciate everybody tuning in this week to the Cheap Seats podcast, where we're going to have barbershop sports talk every single week. So I'm the NFL genius, Sheen Walzak. That's the Prince of Production, Kyle Edwards. That's our World Wrestling advocate, Chase, a.k.a. CR Media, and Jory Sports Stories. And we are signing out.